Hi guys, I'm Diaz and you're watching the SUV Battle channel. In this episode we will test
Volkswagen Tiguan, Kia Sportage, Toyota RAV4, Nissan Rogue, Mitsubishi Outlander, Mazda CX-5, Subaru Forester, and even Chinese Changan CS75. These cars are mainly equipped with naturally aspirated 2.4 and 2.5 liter gasoline engines. In this video, they will drive up the long hill to demonstrate the effectiveness of all-wheel drive systems. By the way, I recommend to subscribe to the channel because the next video will be a battle of big premium SUVs. The brand new Mercedes GLS and BMW X7, Lexus LX, Range Rover, Infiniti, Toyota Land Cruiser, and Mercedes G63. It will be an epic battle. Before we start, I will tell you right away that this test is not fair at all. The cars have different tires and drivers. Now, I will tell you how we set the order of driving of contestants. The surface condition deteriorates after each attempt, so obviously it will be easier for the first participants. Therefore, we start with the car which has the lowest torque and the most powerful cars will drive last. The Chinese Changan CS75 with a 1.8 liter turbo engine will go first. The car starts driving in standard mode, and now there is a rocky surface under its wheels. But then the climb becomes steeper and soil replaces rocks. But let's not run ahead. Here we have the first diagonal suspension. Changan slips, but with no success. The car can't drive further from this position. It's about time to lock the central clutch. The situation hasn't changed. The electronic system can't brake the unloaded wheels sufficiently, thus redistributing enough torque to the loaded wheels. The Changan rolled back and passed the first obstacle by taking another line, and the car is at the main obstacle now. Diagonal suspension again, but the climb angle is even more steep, the surface is softer, and the right front wheel is pressing against the rock step. After several attempts, the Changan rolls back to obtain some momentum to drive over the rock step. Look at the right rear wheel. As soon as the diagonal suspension became less, loaded wheels got less pressure and started pushing. The next participant. The Mitsubishi Outlander with a 2.4 liter engine. This car has Mitsubishi's famous Super All-Wheel Control all-wheel drive system. Previously it was available only on Outlanders with 3 liter V6 engines. The Outlander drives without stopping through the place where the Changan got stuck. But then the Mitsu refuses to drive further. The driver activated the gravel mode. The wheels are making shy attempts to rotate, and the engine is revving at higher pitch. But the car is not moving. The Outlander rolls back to drive through this part using the momentum. The driver steps on the gas, the engine revs up, and the Outlander starts climbing. But the gravel mode didn't help either, so now the snow mode is activated. Unloaded wheels are digging the potholes, but the Mitsubishi is not pushing forward. Now, let's try the gravel mode with ESP off. No luck again. The car rolls back to gain momentum and drive over the step without stopping. The Outlander just skipped over the step with its front right wheel, but then the car went diagonal. The traction control can't provide the loaded wheels with sufficient torque. Probably the CVT also contributes to the situation by limiting the torque transfer under high pressure. Well, let's roll back a little further to gain more speed and momentum. The electronic assistants now are switched off and the car will drive in standard mode. One can say that the Mitsu had to drive without stopping from the very start, but in such case, we wouldn't learn the specifics of the Outlander's behavior in such conditions, especially in comparison with its peers. The next participant is the 2019 Nissan Rogue with a 2.5-liter engine. The Nissan starts peppy, but then stops where the Changan got stuck. A little wheel slippage and secure driving forward to the main obstacle. The Rogue stops and then starts smoothly. The unloaded wheels are rotating, but the car stands still. Now the driver has locked the central clutch. The next step is switching off the ESP. After trying all available options, the ESP is on again and the car rolls back to gain some momentum. But obviously it needs more speed. The Nissan rolls back a little further. The Rogue started from the higher point than the Outlander and drove through the obstacle with almost no stop. The next participant is the 2019 Kia Sportage with a 2.4-liter engine. By the way, if you own a Hyundai Tucson with the same engine, then your car will show absolutely similar results as the Kia because they are constructively the same. The Kia starts driving and quickly reaches the first obstacle. It makes a short stop and then confidently drives further. But on the main obstacle, things are not that simple and easy. The unloaded wheels are rotating and the Kia is standing still. The four-wheel drive lock mode is activated now. The Sportage slips with its unloaded wheels again, but this time it seems like the Kia needs just a little bit more to conquer the climb. Let's make another attempt, but with more acceleration. But despite rolling back, Kia starts from a higher point than the Nissan Rogue. Without gaining a high speed, the car jumped on the rock step with its front wheels, but then it slips down just in front of the step. Then something incredible happened and a Kia is on the top of the hill. The Kia drove on the rock step smoothly after stopping, unlike other participants, which drove the obstacle using the momentum. Plus, the pothole in front of the rock step became deeper with each attempt, making it even more complicated. The next participant is the 2019 Subaru Forester with a 2.5-liter engine. This car has the first generation of Subaru's X-Mode system. The Forester rapidly approaches the first part. After stopping in the middle of the turn, the Subaru securely drove further after a little slip. Well, good start. Here's the main obstacle. The unloaded wheels are rotating, but the Forester is not pushing forward. It's about time to activate the X mode. The driver is stepping on the gas pedal. The RPMs went slightly over 2,000, and look how the wheels are rotating now. With short pauses similar to the Toyota's crawl control system, but unfortunately the conditions are too heavy for Subaru to drive through the obstacle smoothly. Roll back. The Forester rolled just a little down, and no other participant was able to climb from this point. The Subaru is no exclusion too. This time it drives down lower to gain more acceleration. The Kia was able to climb the hill from this point. Let's see how the Forester will do. The momentum was enough for the front wheel to climb on the rock step, but then electronic assistants were helpless. This time the Forester rolls even further, somewhere near to the point where the Nissan Rogue started and climbed the hill. But this time the driver switched off the X mode and tried to drive in standard mode. But unfortunately, the Subi cannot start from this position, and it has to go down lower just above the point of start of the Mitsubishi Outlander during its final attempt. The driver is stepping on the gas to the floor, but the Forester starts smoothly. The Subaru hasn't gained enough acceleration because of wheel slip. Now the car rolls back below Outlander's point and the driver switches off the ESP. The acceleration is more dynamic this time, but it was sufficient only for the front wheel to drive on the step. The driver slightly turned the wheels to the left, and miraculously the Forester drives to the top. Surprised by Subaru's performance and writing an angry comment about the driver's skills already? Don't rush to conclusions. The climb got much worse since the first attempt. Let's see how other contestants cope with it. And the next one is the 2019 Toyota RAV4 with a 2.5-liter engine and sophisticated all-wheel drive system with 2 clutches on the rear axle. The RAV4 reaches the first part, but unlike previous participants who drove through it easily, the Toyota shows a long wheel slip, and only after a slight change of the line it was able to drive on. The RAV4 can't cope with the main obstacle in standard mode, therefore the Rocks and Mud mode is activated. The Toyota's wheels are rotating less intensively in this mode, and the car is visibly trying to push forward. But unfortunately, the RAV4 can't drive up the hill in such conditions. The Toyota rolls down approximately to the point of the Nissan Rogue and starts climbing with slight acceleration. The RAV4 loses the momentum at the rock step, but keeps actively slipping its wheels. Look how the rear wheel abruptly decreases its rotation speed and the car drives forward. It means that the resistance emerged from an uploaded wheel is higher than the torque required for rotation of the loaded wheel. That is the basic principle of work of the traction control system, but it isn't similarly effective on all cars. The same is well visible in this particular place. The unloaded wheel makes several spins and then slows down when the ESP engages and the RAV4 drives to the top. The next participant is Volkswagen Tiguan with a 1.4-liter turbo engine. but even with such a small engine, it has more torque than peers with naturally aspirated 2.5-liter gas engines. Now, we will see if this advantage helps the Tiguan to drive up the hill through obstacles. The driver starts in sport mode and after gaining a good acceleration, drives through the first part and then gets stuck straight after it. The Volkswagen rolls back a little, and with raising lots of dust, the Tiguan drives to the main obstacle. We stop the car there intentionally to see if the car can smoothly drive on the rock step. The unloaded wheels are actively slipping, and we can hear thuds from the transmission area, accompanied by jerking of the loaded wheels. Now the driver has switched the gearbox in drive and activated the off-road mode. The transmission is not thudding anymore, and the wheels are slipping less actively. The Tiguan is doing its best to push forward. It can be confirmed by the Volkswagen loaded front left wheel spin. So the Tiguan manages to climb the step by its front wheels, but then the Tiguan can't drive further in this mode. Therefore, the driver has decided to switch off the ESP and the ASR systems. The unloaded wheels are spinning a little more actively, and it may seem like the traction control is almost idle now. It's useless to drive smoothly, so let's try to gain some momentum. But first, we should wait while the transmission cools down because an overheat message appeared on the dashboard. Unfortunately, we missed to shoot it on camera. After a short pause, the Tiguan rolls back to drive uphill by using the momentum. But no luck again. This time, more distance is needed for acceleration, so the Tiguan drove down from the step by its front wheels. The drive mode is off-road with ESP activated. The car starts from the same position as the Nissan Rogue and Toyota RAV4. The Tiguan has gained enough momentum from the start and securely drove up the hill in off-road mode. There you are with advantage in torque. The next participant is the 2019 Mazda CX-5 with a 2.5-liter engine, and it has even more torque. Will it make sense in such a test? Let's check it out. The Mazda starts driving and goes diagonal on the first part. Look at the front wheels. They are turned now and the car slips. But after they were positioned straight, the CX-5 drove on. Actually, it's a quite common thing among crossovers. It's not the first time I am noticing such specifics of the all-wheel drive system. The Mazda has reached the place where the Rogue started during the final attempt, and the CX-5 got stuck in potholes made by other contestants. The Mazda actively slips, and as a side effect, the message about all-wheel drive system overload appeared on the dashboard. That's why only one wheel is spinning now, the right front one. After a short pause, the car rolls back so it could drive over fresh potholes using the momentum as the Tiguan did. The CX-5 reaches the main obstacle without losing pace, and the front wheels nearly drive on the step. There's a sound of tires scratching the rocks, and at this very moment the car turns front-wheel drive. This service message on the dashboard confirms it. Another attempt, but this time in sport mode. The car gains momentum, reaches the rock step with its front wheels, and then the familiar scenario. The all-wheel drive overheats and switches off the rear axle. After the overheat message disappeared, the Mazda completed the climb by driving aside the main obstacle per simple trajectory. We have the last participant left. The Volkswagen Tiguan with a 2.0-liter turbocharged engine with torque equivalent to a 3.5-liter naturally aspirated engine. An impressive power reserve for a relatively compact crossover. The Volkswagen is driven by the same driver who is behind the wheel of the 1.4-liter Tiguan. The previous Tiguan got stuck straight after the first part, and this one? Even after the full stop where the Mazda had its all-wheel drive overheat, the Tiguan easily continued driving actively, throwing dirt with its wheels. We intentionally stopped the car at the main obstacle to see if it can drive there smoothly. The Tiguan starts and presses against the rock step with the front wheel. The engine revs up, but because of the high pressure on the wheels, the transmission can't properly deliver the torque. The logical result is the overheat message. The driver waited a little and then continued driving in standard mode. The car smoothly drove on the step with the front wheels, and because of sufficient torque, it was no problem to get the rear axle there too. Finally, the Tiguan made it to the top of the hill. The first attempt of the Tiguan was in standard mode. Therefore, let's try it once more in off-road mode with ESP off. The car starts from the foothill of the climb, spectacularly scattering stones and raising clouds of dust, and finishes on the top of the hill. It's a visual demonstration of the advantage in torque. Now that all the participants have made their attempts, let's sum it up. But I guess people would comment that for the sake of fairness, those cars which started first should be driven once again after deterioration of the climb. Actually, after the obstacle you have just watched, we moved to the next location and shot there some additional videos which I am going to use for summarizing. The Changan CS75. It got stuck from the very start at the turn, and then with wheels actively slipping securely, drove through the obstacle. Why did the Changan get stuck at a seemingly harmless turn at the very beginning? I found the answer during the additional test. The car drives on the high ground and goes diagonal with incline. The front right wheel is almost not touching the surface and hanging in the air. The engine RPMs go up. The unloaded wheels are actively slipping, raising lots of dust, and only after that the car was able to drive on the top of the climb. That means that the Changan's traction control system starts working effectively at high engine RPMs and sufficient difference in rotation speeds of wheels of one axle. Nothing from the above was on that turn of the first obstacle, and that's why the Changan got stuck there. So if you go off-roading in the Changan CS75, then the unloaded wheels would dig a hole in the ground, and then the traction control would try to drive the car out. But it will be too late. The Mitsubishi Outlander easily passed the turn, but could not drive further after stopping. Probably the reason is because of the CVT protection from overload. The car easily drove the main obstacle with minimal wheel slip thanks to Mitsubishi's Super All-Wheel Control all-wheel drive system. The Super All-Wheel Control's work is clearly visible at the additional test. The traction control engages almost from idle RPMs. The distinctive longitudinal body swing tells us about it. But the CVT puts some limitations on the capabilities of the car. The visual examples is the stop after the turn and weak acceleration uphill. I am sure that the Outlander with 3-liter V6 and 6-speed automatic transmission would perform far more impressively. The Nissan Rogue also has a CVT, but it didn't suffer much during the turn where the Rogue fully stopped and neither after it. The uphill acceleration was more rapid than the one of its Japanese relative. The additional test cemented the excellent result of the Nissan. A little wheel slipping at the beginning, and then with almost no idle rotation, the Rogue drives through the obstacle. The Kia Sportage surprised us. It had a minimal distance for acceleration at the main obstacle, though it is not that important because the Kia stopped against the rock step anyway. but it continued driving after minor slipping. At the additional obstacle, there is an insignificant wheel slippage, but in general, the Sportage has demonstrated a steadily good performance. I expected more from the Subaru Forester. Perhaps the CVT also played a role here. The car reluctantly accelerated and therefore could not drive up the main obstacle. Even with front wheels on the step, it had to roll back to pull the rear axle up there using the momentum. The traction control system performed much better at the additional test, where the pressure was significantly lower. The Forester drove up the obstacle, not raising too much dust and not allowing an intensive wheel slipping. The Toyota RAV4. When I watched how the RAV4 passed the turn, I was thinking to expect nothing positive, but then Rocks and Mud mode was activated. The Toyota accelerated a little, stopped at the step, and then smoothly drove up with the front and then similarly smoothly with its rear wheels. And there wasn't any notable wheel slipping. Excellent result. During the additional test, the hanging wheels made idle rotations at low speed, but the car behaved absolutely predictably. The Volkswagen Tiguan with a 1.4-liter turbo engine demonstrated an expectable result. The small engine produces sufficient power at high RPMs, only that weren't available right after the turn, and that's why the Tiguan got stuck. Later, the Volkswagen drove the main obstacle without stopping and at the same time intensively slipping with all wheels. But if the Tiguan would stop in the middle of the distance, it wouldn't be able to drive further. At the second test area, the Volkswagen experienced difficulties when driving up to the climb. The car can't push forward until the engine revs enough. Then, an excessive amount of torque is suddenly delivered to the wheels, making the Tiguan jump forward. As the Tiguan didn't fully stop with its front right wheel hanging in the air, I can't compare the Volkswagen's behavior with other participants. But nevertheless, the first obstacle was quite illustrative. The Mazda CX-5 is a car least appropriate for driving in such conditions. Yes, one can say that the Mazda drove among the last participants, and it was more complicated for the CX-5 than for others. But there was only one vehicle between the Mazda and the RAV4, and their performance at the main obstacle was tremendously different. Plus, the CX-5 transmission got overheated quickly, and the car wasn't able to drive through the main obstacle at all. The Mazda's all-wheel drive got overheated again at the additional test. That's why it drove per more flat trajectory. Mazda has recently presented the updated CX-5 with the off-road mode. When such a car is available in the local market, I will certainly test it. Check for updates. The Volkswagen Tiguan with a 2-liter engine. It drove last and the hill was in the poorest condition. The Tiguan drove on the step smoothly with front wheels, but then its transmission overheated. After a pause to cool down, the Volkswagen conquered the climb, actively slipping and raising dust. This Tiguan has also demonstrated the advantage of the huge torque reserve. The car with a weaker engine wouldn't be able to accelerate enough and keep the momentum despite the loose soil, potholes, and the climb angle. But on the other side, such dynamic driving may be unacceptable when it's required to drive precisely, and the lowest price of a mistake can be a damaged bumper in the best case. Well, here is the example. Look how the Tiguan drives through the additional test. The car fully stops with its right wheel hanging in the air, but can't drive further until the engine delivers sufficient torque. But when it's delivered, the Tiguan jumps forward, hitting the ground with its bumper. I guess you agree that this is not the best scenario. And now, we sum up all the drives of each car. Let's traditionally award places. The obvious outsider of this test is the Mazda CX-5, which occupies the 5th place. 4 cars are in a tie for 4th place. The Changan CS75, the Mitsubishi Outlander, Subaru Forester, and the Volkswagen Tiguan with the 1.4-liter engine. The Changan and the Volkswagen require high RPMs to effectively engage the traction control when driving on complex terrain. The CTV puts notable limitations on capabilities of the Subaru and the Mitsubishi. The VW Tiguan with a 2-liter engine occupies the 3rd place. From one side, it has a good torque reserve, but from another, the transfer of power to the wheels is too sharp. Two absolutely opposite qualities, and therefore it is definitely not an outsider, but at the same time not the best. In 2nd place, there are 2 cars, the Kia Sportage and Nissan Rogue. I predict your resentment that the Sportage performed better, but do not forget that the Nissan has a CVT, and in comparison to the Outlander and the Forester, the Rogue showed an excellent result. The 1st place is awarded to the Toyota RAV4 thanks to its new all-wheel drive system with 3 multi-disc clutches, which allow better managing of torque distribution. That's why the RAV4 was able to conquer the climb maximally smoothly at minimal speed and with almost no wheel slip. And no other participant of this test could drive through the climb the same way.
That's all for me. Please let me know in the comment section below which vehicle surprised you and which one you expected to perform better. My name is Diaz. See you in the next video.